Hi everyone, it's Nick coming at you with another video on how to improve your trading. I recently had a bit of a back and forth with someone on Twitter about why trading rules don't work, and it's really hard to really go into enough detail on Twitter, so I thought I'd make a video to explain all of that and go through why I personally don't think that trading rules are actually very good. One kind of thing I want to mention first is trading rules for your strategy are critical. Having rules for your setups is how you become successful. But when you begin to place rules on your execution, on your actions, that's where most traders begin to fall down. And I think it's why so many traders fail. So to start off with, what are some common trading rules that you hear people throw around? These are just a few I picked out. There's so many others, and everybody has their own individual ones. But these are fairly common ones. So max number of trades in a day. Let's say you notice that normally if you take more than 3 trades, well, you begin over trading. I'm going to set myself 3 trades today, or 3 trades per day. Max drawdown per day. Okay, lose only $200 in a day, $500, whatever it is. Okay, that makes sense. Fine. No FOMO. Don't take trades because of FOMO. Only trade my A+ setups. Don't hold positions overnight unless planned. Don't add to losers. Cut losses quick. Always have a stop in place. 2 tries at a setup, then move on. And these are all very common rules that when I've worked with clients, I ask them, what are your rules for trading? And they will send me a version of this. And the thing is, every single one of them is, when I've asked them why is this a rule, they'll say, because I keep making a mistake related to this. Now, the thing is, these are great. These trading rules are fantastic, right? If you have these trading rules and you follow them exactly as they are, you're going to be successful. As long as you have a setup that works, you're going to be successful. And therefore, a lot of people think, well, I'll just have trading rules. That's how you do it. But the problem is they don't work. And the reason they don't work is kind of split into these 3 reasons. Number 1, they all assume that you're going to be at a high level of thinking for the whole time you trade. Number 2, they require willpower, and a lot of willpower, to execute. And number 3, some of them assume you already know what good looks like. And I'm going to go into each of these in a bit more detail. So they all assume a high level of thinking. Why is this such a problem? Well, as emotion builds, you begin to lose access to parts of your brain that think logically. This is a very sort of this is when you hear people talk about the flight or fight response. This is how your brain gets to that. As you become slightly more emotional, your brain turns off the parts of itself that aren't required. Okay? If you get to a point where you are faced with a physical challenge, your brain is not going to be thinking logically about loads of things that are irrelevant. It will be focused on, how can I get out of this situation? Do I need to punch the guy in the face, or do I need to run? That's the only parts it really needs to think about. And throughout the day, you're going to experience different levels of emotion, and that's going to have differing impact on the level of thinking that you have access to. So at a 3 out of 10 emotion, maybe a little bit of frustration, a little bit of nerves, you're going to lose access to the zone, right? And the zone I like to think of is when you're trading and you see something, you're just like, I know that this is going to work. And you can't really understand why, but you just say, something looks perfect about this, and it just feels correct. And I know exactly when my setup is going to trigger you. It's that sort of feeling of like you're in the matrix, right? You almost can see something a few seconds before it happens. You know where the perfect entry is going to be. You just get that feel. Maybe you're watching the tape at level 2, and you just feel it getting heavy, and you're like, okay, I can almost sense what's going to happen. This is often something that you've seen many times before but haven't really studied, but subconsciously you're going, I know what this is. At a 3 out of 10 emotion, you lose access to that zone. Your brain literally shuts it off. Now, at a 5 out of 10 emotion, you begin to shut down the higher level thoughts related to discipline and control, such as okay, we don't want to take this because if we take a trade here, we're going to lose access to, maybe we're not going to be able to trade later on because we're likely to go over our maximum stop, or we shouldn't really be taking small size trades on something I haven't tested. In other words, you just become a little bit more reckless, right? And you'll see this in real life as well. When you get to that point where you're a 5 out of 10 emotional, maybe when you're driving, someone's annoyed you to a point where you're starting to get more annoyed than you should do. And you begin to go, actually, I'm going to maybe race that guy down the road a little bit, right? You're not going to do something dangerous, but it's just slightly more reckless. Now, at a 7 out of 10, we begin to shut down most of the logical human part of our brain. There's a really good book called The Chimp Paradox, and the author talks about how you have the human and the chimp and the computer, and the human is our logical, kind of like if you're chatting to somebody in a calm manner, that's how you want to be most of the time. At a 7 out of 10, you lose that and you begin to go into chimp mode, which is our fight, flight, freeze mechanism. It's more of our getting into arguments for the sake of things and so on and so forth. Okay, and this is a problem because now you're beginning to have thoughts of, screw this ticker, I know it should be going higher, I'm going to take it. It's when you begin chasing, etc. And at a 10 out of 10 emotion, you're literally down to your basic survival instincts, and these in the markets are not very good. And a really good way to sort of like compare this, to see it in a real life setting, is just think about choices you have made when you got to quite a high level of anger, a high level of jealousy, maybe when you were deeply in love or even extremely happy. Think about those choices, and how many of those choices would you look at and go, yeah, that probably wasn't the best thing to do. Probably shouldn't have done that. And the thing is, you have rules that you live your daily life by, but you break them all of the time when you have these high levels of emotion. So all of the rules I mentioned assume that you're a 3 out of 10 or a lower emotion, okay? And if you are constantly a 3 out of 10 or lower, you're going to be able to apply those rules just fine, right? Because you have full access to your thinking part of the brain. They require you to have things, to be able to reach into your brain and pull out the part that says, I know that this is bad because, or I know that what I'm doing now is correct, and therefore I need to take this trade at this point because it is correct, but I can't chase it beyond this point, right? You need to have access to that part of your brain. If you have that access to that part, great. Once you go to a 5 out of 10 or beyond, the rules begin to mean less and less to you. You're more likely to go, I know that that is one of my rules, but this is an exception because, or I don't care about that rule today because of this, or I know this is a rule, but I'm going to take very small size, and so on. This is often why you'll maybe have one of those whirlwind days where you maybe get an opportunity that you get in and it goes almost to your take profit and then dumps on you and you get really frustrated. Then you take a bad trade and it builds and the emotion builds. And then at the end of it, you look back and go, oh my God, I broke 5 of my rules today and I didn't even realize I was doing it. That's purely because you've reached such an emotional point, you can't think about your rules. They might be written down in front of you, but you cannot execute on them. If you've had that kind of experience, this is why it happens, because you reach a level of emotion where you cannot control the logical part of your brain, or you do not have access to that, which means you cannot follow your rules. Now, they also require willpower to execute, and this is especially the ones that are like no FOMO, never add to a loser, the ones which are very like strict rules, almost like your parents or teacher telling you, don't do this, don't do that, make sure you do this on time, etc. They require you're the one telling yourself that, right? You haven't got someone standing over you saying, don't take that trade, it's FOMO. Don't add to a loser here. You yourself are having to tell yourself that. That requires a huge amount of willpower to actually execute. And the problem is, over the day, you're going to use up that willpower. So the first 2 trades, you might avoid FOMO. You might not add to a loser. But if you've had those thoughts 3, 4, 5, 10 times in the first hour, and you've managed to not do them every single time, let's say one of those times that you said no FOMO and it rips, and you go, I knew I should have taken that. Your willpower is going to be depleted, and the next time there's a situation like that, you're going to take it and you're going to take a loss and you're going to have broken your trading rule because you don't have any willpower left. And the worst part is you don't even go into the day with 100 out of 100 willpower most of the time. Right? If you do not have the ideal warm up and cool down, like warm up before the day and cool down after the day, where you can begin to reset yourself mentally, you're likely going into the day with 70 out of 100 willpower. If you've ever had a day where the day before you've taken a big loss and you go into, all right, today's the day I'm going to be really disciplined, and 10 minutes in you're taking bad trades, that's because your willpower is starting off at like 30 out of 100 because you've taken a big loss the day before. Now, how often have you stuck to rules for maybe the first half an hour, the first hour, maybe sometimes even just first 15 minutes, then you take one trade, you make a mistake, and suddenly you're breaking all of your rules? That is because you do not have an infinite amount of willpower. And as it drains, the likelihood of you breaking a rule increases. You are literally asking too much of yourself. You cannot consistently stick to rules that require a lot of willpower. And finally, they assume you already know what good looks like. Now, this isn't quite as important, but some of those rules, the ones that are like, I'm only taking my A+ setup, no C grade trades, do you actually know what those look like? Have you tested your edge to see what ideal conditions look like? There's so many traders who cannot distinguish between what their A+ setup looks like and a B grade setup looks like. And the problem is, if that's you, if you don't know, if you're uncertain, you're in that sort of exploration stage in your trading, how can you set a rule of only take A+ trades? You don't know what A+ looks like. You don't know what the conditions need to be for it. So you need to actually know. If you took somebody brand new to trading and you said to them, right, this is the setup, and you showed them a picture of it, and you say the rule is only trade A+ setups, they are not going to follow that rule because they don't know what it looks like. So take a look at yourself as well and go, do I know exactly what an A+ setup is? Can I describe it? Can I describe the conditions we're trading in for it to be A+? And if you can't, then that rule is completely redundant. Now, the problem is they sound so good, and when you see people talking about them, you go, yeah, that makes sense. That's the reason people suggest them, because they sound good. They're almost a marketing tool. They're almost telling people all you need to do is set rules and follow them. Yeah, to be a professional football player or professional soccer player, all you need to do is be really fast, have really good strength, have a really good touch, pass the ball really well, and put it in the top corner every time. Just follow that. That sounds stupid. It's the same with trading. Saying just follow your rules when you don't have the skills to do it is not only irresponsible, it's dangerous. Because you're just going to keep on going, oh, I'm just going to add a new rule. That'll cover me here. I'm going to add a new rule. At what point do you have 50 rules and you don't follow any of them? But it feels good to put them in place. Like, how many times have you had a bad day and you've gone, right, okay, that's enough. From now on, no more B grade trades. I'm only taking the best setups from now on. Or I need to cut my losses. I need to set a rule now, $50 maximum risk per trade. I need to set a rule. If I lose $100 on the day, I am done for the day. I need to be strict on this. How many times have you done that? Only for like a week later, you've gone, oh, that rule doesn't really matter anymore because you've broken it 3 times. Right? When you do set a rule and you follow it, that 1 in 10 time, right, and you stick to it, then yeah, it works. The majority of the time, that doesn't work. And that's kind of where I want to go to now. How often has that actually worked for you? How many times have you set a rule and 6 months later, you've stuck to it and you've become a successful trader? Probably not very many times. Okay? So what should you do instead? Because there's no point me making a video saying, trading rules suck, don't do them, if I then don't give an alternative. And the best way to approach this, I believe, is to use Jared Tendler's method in the mental game of trading, which is as followed. Number 1, you need to figure out when you're making mistakes. Go through your trades, go through the last 20, 30 trades and write down or pull out every trade where you said that was a mistake, that was a mistake, that was a mistake, and find the pattern. Find the situation that you frequently make mistakes in. And instead of setting rules, you need to actually work out how to resolve that mistake. So figure out what is the underlying thoughts and emotion that you go through in that time. Oh, I took this trade, I knew I was chasing it, but I'd seen other people taking it and it was ripping higher, and I thought I got to get on this before it reverses. I need to take this trade. This is the opportunity to make money. Figure out what it is. Why does it make sense? And this is really important. This isn't a trick question. After you figured out what they are, why does it make sense to feel that way? Because you wouldn't feel that way. You wouldn't think that way if there isn't a part of it that doesn't make if there isn't a part of it that makes sense, right? If it makes completely no sense at all, then that wouldn't be a thought. But you need to just accept that this is how you think and there is a reason behind it. And then once you have that reason as to why it makes sense to feel that way, you need to attack that element there. You need to say, why does that piece of logic there, the reason it makes sense, why is that hurting your trading? And then you need to replace that reason, that kind of, oh, well, I feel bad when I take a loss because I don't want to lose. You need to replace that with the correct thought process. And that needs to be, in that example, something along the lines of, I know that I'm going to take losses in my trading. I can learn from them, I benefit from them, and I can't have a strategy that wins all the time. Whatever it may be, you need to have that as your new piece of logic. Write down as well, and write that down and have it by you all the time. Write down as well why that correction is correct. Why does it actually help you? You need as many reasons behind it as possible so that you can believe in it, so that you live by it. And once you have all this, and this itself is a process, this might take you a whole evening, it might take you weeks to actually really narrow it down. Once you have that, you're going to have that new logic and the reason in front of you, and your goal will be every time you catch yourself having those old thoughts, those old emotions, is to go, I see this for what it is, and I'm going to read through my new logic. I'm going to read through it and I'm going to live by it. And what this does is, over time, when before you were having that emotion that was getting to a 5, 6, 7, 8 out of 10, you're catching it at a 3, and you are changing your thought process to something that is beneficial, and you're not allowing yourself to become emotional. It takes time. It will take a month, 2 months, 3 months. But the thing is, after you've done that, you stop fighting your natural instincts because they have been changed to actually benefit your trading. And what this means is, those rules, you don't need them because you are naturally following them anyway. People put rules in place when they make mistakes, and those rules are then fighting their inner trading beliefs. You need to change the beliefs so that you do not have to have those trading rules that are honestly not actually working, because as soon as you become emotional, they won't work. To quickly recap, I personally believe trading rules are lazy and do not work. Do not pretend you can be disciplined enough to follow your rules. Don't pretend that you have an infinite amount of willpower that will allow you to be disciplined enough to never break them. Okay? Don't skip out on the work that you need to do to resolve mental game weakness. It takes time, right? It might take you, like I said, a few weeks to know exactly what the underlying reason is and the correct resolution, and it's going to take months to implement. But if you do that, then in 3 months' time, you're going to be at a point where you don't need those set of trading rules, because that isn't how you trade anymore. Take action, okay, and don't assume that the rules will help you. Don't fall into the trap that so many traders do by having a bad day, writing a set of new rules and going, okay, I'm set now, I just need to follow my rules. Because you will not follow them. It takes one day where you come into the market, you're a little bit more emotional to start off with, you take a big loss, right, that wasn't planned. It takes that to happen once, and your rules go out the window. And once they go out the window on day 1, it's very easy to just on day 2, day 3, day 4 to ignore them completely. So that's just my opinion on it. The reason I think that my opinion carries more weight than the people saying their rules out there, I've worked with people, right? I've had clients who come to me with rules, and we go through them and we realize that they don't follow them. I myself traded. I used to have a whole list of rules of, right, do not trade due to FOMO. They never worked. And I can guarantee that if you've watched to this point, you've probably thought at some point, damn, the rules I set I don't actually follow, right? I keep breaking my rules. This is the reason why, and this is the approach you need to take to actually improve. So, that was a mini ranty video, I guess, but I hope you took something from it. And, make sure you like if you found it useful, subscribe for more videos like this, and I'll see you again pretty soon. Thanks for watching till the end of the video. Just adding a quick piece in here to let you know what extra services I have to help you become a better trader. On my site, guidedtradingmeditations.com, you can find my new course, The Trading Blueprint, which gives you a full guide on how to create an edge, test it, start trading it, and scale up. There are sections included on how to find weaknesses in your trading, and then how to resolve them, as well as many other bits of information that I've gathered in my years of experience. The aim of the course is to make you a fully independent trader, so you don't need to pay ever-growing monthly fees to be in a chat room. There's no specific edge needed. You can use this in any market with any trading style. If you're at a stage in your trading where you're struggling and would prefer a more in-depth look at your own personal weaknesses and ongoing support, you can also book one-on-one coaching with me on the site. There's a cool breakdown on the screen right now, so pause the video and read through it, and if it's something you're interested in, check it out. There's a ton of other content on the site that I'm really proud of and I've really enjoyed making, so if you're interested, please check it out. I'm sure there'll be something on there that can help your trading. You can reach me on Twitter. My handle is in the description down below. You can send me a DM if you'd like any more information, and make sure to like and subscribe to stay up to date with future videos.